Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, the Fantasy Clown, along with the real Brad Smith. And we're taking a look at the Big Eight preview show. An eight 12 team leagues that all feed into one 96 team league, a Sweet 16 version. This is year number 2. So if Captain Curl were to repeat as champion, we'd get an extra $800. And as the Empire Rollover Pod is in existence, taking a look at each division, we do start one quarterback, one running back, two receivers, one tight end, five flex, and then two super flex for a total of 12. So real deep, 144 starters each week, including the bye weeks. But we also have three quarterbacks in this format. So a lot of flex spots, but three quarterbacks putting up points is always key. And then even though one tight end with the 3-point PPR, it does make tight end scoring, pretty premium as well. So looking at Clown Head S division, Justin 139.98 was the champion last year and on pace to win $100 if he were to be a repeat champion. And so taking a look at the computer, it looks like the second top point getter, Z Flute Senior, is that second point getter.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at his team, it actually looks kind of beatable. He might need everything to go right here. But the good part about these leagues is you can kind of build your team however you want, with it just being one running back, two receiver, one tight end start. So, um, I mean, he has two as his top QB, and he's able to start three. So he's got Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford behind him, with Derek Carr on the bench. So, I mean, if you only need one, I mean, he definitely has QBs to make it work. Um, his running backs are solid. He's got Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, and Austin Eckler starting there. So, I mean, he kind of needs them all to pop off to go right. Um, his receivers are Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins. Um, that's about it for his starters. His tight end, he's trying out Evan Ingram and Jonnu Smith in his flex, so he's definitely taking advantage of the premium there. Um, but other than that, he has a little bit of depth, but like not too much, honestly. He's got Ezekiel Elliott on the bench, Trey Benson, Wandell Robinson, Brandon Cooks, and Ben Sinnott, basically. So, I mean, he kind of needs a couple of those guys to be pretty good to get into the starting lineup.
True. I totally agree with that. And, think that, his it'll be how those starters perform, really. Looking at the top point getter, Wandada 21.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that team. Um, this team looks a little bit better, but kind of similar, honestly. He's got Trevor Lawrence
It's got
starting
three
there,
quarterbacks, though.
but he has some great quarterbacks. He's got Lamar and Josh Allen there down in the super flex, but nothing behind them. So I mean, it'll work only having to start one. So I mean, it really isn't bad. He's got Kyron Williams, Devin Achane, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, and Zach Moss as running backs. So it looks like he went running back heavy for sure. Even though some of them are getting up there in age, I think it's just fine for him. He's got Drake London, Rashee Rice, and Christian Kirk as his receivers, which are young. They're young guys. He's got George Kittle as his tight end. But again, not too much depth. He's got like Zach Charbonnet, Jamal Williams, Gabe Davis maybe, and that's kind of about it for him. So I think both of the top two teams could definitely be beatable in this league if other teams have players that go right.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I totally agree with that. Looking at Clownhead T, we had Captain Curl win last year, and if it repeated, it would be $100 his way. The second top point getter, Buick 1957, a 57 Buick.
um, I mean, this team definitely looks better on paper than the other teams we just looked at. I mean, he does only have Daniel Jones though as a QB, so he might be in a little bit of trouble there if he doesn't make a move.
Well, it looks like DeVito behind it, so that, on the non-bye weeks, that should be okay. A lot of backup quarterbacks, so maybe he's relying on some of those guys to have injuries. But looking at him, Mariota's he's a 2, but White's a 3, Lance is a 3, DeVito's a 3, uh, Johnson is a 2, but they just signed Huntley, so that could be a 3. And I mean, there's a lot of 3s there that I've just said in the quarterback room. See, needing 2 injuries to get on the field, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Tough task.
His running backs are definitely better. He's got Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Pacheco, and Devin Singletary out there. His receivers are stout. He's got CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, Malik Neighbors, Christian Kirk, Jaden Reed. And then his tight end is Trey McBride. But this team looks to have a little bit more depth. He's got Brian Robinson on the bench, Jalen Polk, DeAndre Hopkins, Greg Dortch, Terry McLaurin, Rashid Shaheed, Jacoby Myers, Taysom Hill. I mean, he can definitely maneuver a little bit more, even though he doesn't have the QBs to put in his super flexes.
Yeah. Now, last year's champion, Captain Curl, actually is the top point getter here in Division T. So taking a look at Captain Curl.
And yeah, looking at it, it definitely looks like a team that's ready to go right now. He's got Josh Allen, Geno Smith, and Baker as his QBs, with a couple backups behind them. He's got Saquon, Derrick Henry, Rashad White, James Conner as his running backs, and then Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, and Amari Cooper as his wide receivers. So, I mean, it looks like he's a little bit older, but definitely guys that are still top names.
So this was our Big 8 champion as well. So this is the team that won the whole thing.
Yeah. So I mean, if he has everything go right like he did last year, it's definitely a team to beat. I mean, having Travis Kelce and David Njoku for your tight ends is real nice.
Yeah, agreed.
It looks like he doesn't have that much depth though, apart from that. So I mean, he would definitely need all of his starters to kind of do what they did last year if he wants to repeat.
And that's tough. I mean, it's tough to just get everybody to do the same thing as I guess he has Nick Chubb coming later, but beyond that, there's not much, supporting cast to come, so to speak. In Clownhead U, Earth Gets Black won last year, and then as we look at this year, Kamish Hart, is in the second top point getter. He just always seems to get those teams, coming on. So there'll be somebody to look at this year in this league.
Yeah, I mean, just taking a look at his team, it's another young team. He's got Caleb Williams as number 1 QB with Brock Purdy and Daniel Jones behind them. He's able to have Bo Nix on the bench, so he's got some maneuverability there, even if he can't start 3 at one time eventually. He's got James Cook, Zamir White, Tyjae Spears, and Zach Charbonnet as his running backs. So, I mean, it's not great, but he can definitely maneuver them if you only have to start one. He has Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Tyreek Hill, George Pickens as his receivers, which is real nice. And then he has Trey McBride as his tight end here. But it looks like he definitely has. I mean, even he doesn't have that much depth. He's got Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas on the bench. Ricky Pearsall whenever he comes back, and Tyler Conklin.
Yeah. But a solid team. I guess I do think that team can come on. The computer's top pick, though, in Division U, Jay Yates 11 is who they think is going to get there. So I guess I can see why, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this team definitely looks like it's primed to win. With Josh Allen, Jared Goff, and Aaron Rodgers as his QBs. Nothing behind them though, so hopefully we see he has some depth here on the bench. He's got Jonathan Taylor, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, Kyron Williams, and Zach Moss as his running backs. So that's definitely where he went with his draft. He's got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Rome Odunze as his receivers. And then George Kittle as his tight end. But if we take a look down here, it looks like he's got Jamar Chase on the bench just in case he doesn't play. So, I mean,
as we're filming, Jamar Chase did practice in full today, so things look like they're ready to go for him.
Yeah, absolutely. But other than that, he doesn't have really anything behind them either. It looks like a lot of these leagues, these top teams are looking for their starters to kind of pull off wins for them
and carry them through. Surely, looking at Clownhead V, we had Vish 13S get the win, and looking ahead to this year, actually the second top point getter, Danny Nichols, is primed to come in second place here. So taking a look at Danny Nichols' team.
Yeah, this team looks like it's ready to win this year for sure. He's got Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and Matthew Stafford as his top 3 QBs with Russell Wilson on the bench. So I mean, he'll probably be able to start 3 QBs most weeks. He's got Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Raheem Mostert, and Devin Singletary as running backs. Looks like he's just filled up his flex with all running backs. So, and then his receivers are probably his worst position with Zay Flowers and Brandon Cooks. So maybe he can pull off a trade with a running back to get another receiver there. But he's got Travis Kelce as his tight end, so he's looking ready to go. On the bench, it doesn't look like he has too much depth aside from Juwan Johnson, Kylan Granson, and Zach Ertz when he's starting.
Yeah, it looks like a team that's ready to win, has a little bit of depth behind it. So good luck to Danny Nichols. Looking at the top team there, actually SB Sherman. So far we've had all teams that, except for Captain Curl, that are all different this year. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, this team's another different team. He's got Tua and Cousins as his top 2 QBs with not really much behind it. A couple backups.
yeah.
He's got Christian McCaffrey, which is real nice, obviously, and Saquon and Josh Jacobs and James Conner and Ramondre as his running back. So he's definitely primed to be just fine there. He has Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith as his receivers, and then Dalton Schultz as his starting tight end. But behind it, it looks like he's got Zach Moss on the bench, Christian Kirk, Keenan Allen, Okungwo. Like, it looks like he has more depth than a lot of the previous teams, if injuries were to happen or something.
Yeah, agreed. That looks like something that could win, but there's not a lot of quarterbacks there, and I find it hard to believe that the non-quarterback kind of teams will get a win. So, looking at Clownhead W, T-Town Baseball 22 was the winner last year and looking to repeat, but this year we have Phil Rupert as the second highest point team by the computer analytics.
Yep. And I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of a trend here between top teams. I mean, there's one guy that really helps you, and that's Christian McCaffrey. So, he definitely has him. He has C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, and Brock Purdy as his three QBs. So he definitely has three great ones. And then obviously Christian McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, and DeAndre Swift as his running backs. And then he's got Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman, and Chris Godwin as his receivers, with Travis Kelce as his tight end. Um, and then behind him, he's got Tyjae Spears, JSN, Daniel Bellinger, Zach Ertz, and Kate Otten with Jawan Johnson. So it looks like he has a little bit of maneuverability as well.
Yeah, and for a second top team, that's really good. Looks like the top team in that division, Cowboys and the Utes. And so that was one of the big eight, or I'm sorry, the Elite Eight winners. And it looks like he's getting this team primed and ready to go here. Oh, yeah, I guess I can see that too.
Yep. Having Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, and Baker as his top three QBs is kind of nice. Nothing behind them though. I mean, only two other backup QBs, maybe even one third string QB. He does have Bijan, Najee, and Javante as his running backs. So nice young running backs there. He has Xavier Worthy, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Puka, C.D. Lamb as his receivers, which is real nice. And then he's starting Tyler Conklin as his tight end. Behind him, he's got Austin Eckler on the bench, Jahan Dotson, Johnny Mundt, Greg Dulcich, Mike Gesicki. Maybe not too many big name players on the bench, but he definitely has some guys that he can put in there.
But then the IR spots are full of Hawkinson and Hollywood and some more players there. So I feel like, he's got some studs, coming back from injury when this team, will be ready to go. And at the top, it's got the right pieces. Maybe it doesn't have a lot of backups, but it's got some right pieces at the top of the board for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at Clownhead X, the Pack fan won last year. And here we have the real Brad Smith as the second highest point getter team. So we'll take a look at your team here in the Big Eight.
Yeah, I think I'll let you kind of dissect this one. I'm kind of proud of this team, honestly.
Well, I mean, just kind of taking a peek at the quarterbacks. That looks a little bit light to me. I don't know what you have on the bench, but we got Kyler Murray and Gardner as the top two options, and I mean that'll help you get through. But beyond that, now you are ready to go with maybe the top backup quarterback in Carson Wentz. If something were to happen to Pat Mahomes, Carson Wentz is a starter. And that's an offense that would carry on. And then Mac Jones is a top backup as well, and because they're going to throw the ball around the yard if something were to happen to Trevor. So I can see where that makes some sense. Now, receiver-wise, that might be one of the top receiving cores in the league itself with Jamar Chase and JJ, and then also Marvin Harrison. So I really like what you've done there. I mean, obviously, Romeo Dobbs is one of my guys, but the other guys, the other three are top tier receivers, really top, probably top 12 receivers in a one quarterback league. They're all going to go there. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Saquon, not really anything to talk about. He's like a top 5 running back. So, that's good there. You have him behind maybe Taylor, in the 4 or 5 spot. So Najee should have a good year, and Swift is, a PPR, monster if they utilize him well. So what do you have on the bench though after some of those guys? You're putting a little bit Cortland Sutton. I mean, he's going to be the number 1 target in Denver, so that makes some sense. And then in these tight end premium leagues, just having Mutt and Kylan Granson, make a lot of sense. Jacoby Myers, we should see some passing, from a team that's behind, and then we don't know what Jalen Polk is, but it's just another dart throw. And I would say the more dart throws you have, the better off you are. And I like Darnell Washington with Artie Smith. Seems like there's backup tight ends, an awful lot. So it wouldn't shock me if anything were to happen right there. So there, I actually just picked Jamal Williams on the way through as I was talking. Didn't realize, drafting here and trying to get those round 22nd picks. So that's where I'm picking there with Jamal Williams. Late in one of these exact same format as this league that we're talking about right here in a redraft league. So this kind of league. Looking at the top team in Division X, we have Titan Chaps. And so
I mean, yeah, this team definitely looks like it's more top heavy than mine. He's got Pat Mahomes as his top QB there, but looks like he only has Sam Darnold behind him, so he's only starting 2 as well. In with a possible start 3 here. He does have Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Rashad White, and Kenneth Walker and Zamir White as his running backs. And then he's got Amon-Ra, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, and Terry McLaurin as his top receivers. So, I mean, he looks pretty decent, honestly. He has Xavier Legette behind him on the bench, Demario Douglas, Jatavian Sanders, Jelani Woods would have been a pretty good pickup had he not gotten hurt for the whole year. And then he has Jonathan Brooks on his IR.
I really like Jonathan Brooks to have some later reinforcements coming. So that's always good as well. Looking at Division Y, we had Slippy Manor win last year, and then looking at this year, the second top point getter, Kerwin 17. Kerwin wins some of our other leagues, but haven't heard from him lately, and he wasn't in the top here last year.
Yeah, I feel like he was a mainstay in the top last year.
Yeah, no, in other leagues we were always quoting his name. So
I mean, his team looks decent again this year. He's got Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels as his QBs, but nothing behind them. So that could be why he could fall off. But he has Devin Achane, Rashad White, James Cook as his running backs, which isn't too bad. He's got Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Curtis Samuel, and Deontay Johnson as his wide receivers. And then he's got Trey McBride and Mark Andrews as his tight ends, which might be the best tight end room in this league. Behind them, he's got Brian Thomas, Lad McConkey, Johnny Mundt, Isaiah Likely, and then TJ Hawkinson on the IR preparing to come back. So he definitely has 3 top tight ends there.
Yeah, no, good team. Definitely a good team. And it looks like a lot of depth, with the receivers especially. They're young and can really come of age. Looking at the top team in Division Y, C887 was the team computer kind of picked to be on top.
C887. All right. And
okay, I can see that.
I mean, having Pat Mahomes is always a good thing as his top QB, but he's also got Dak and Cousins behind him with Gardner on the bench. So he definitely has plenty of QBs to make it work. He's got Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard as his running backs, and then Devontae Adams, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins as his top receivers. And then he's got Cole Kmet as his tight end. It looks like he's got J.K. Dobbins on the bench. And Mike Gesicki, so he might need a lot to go right here to be good. But he does have Jalen Polk and his taxi. If he does hit, then he could move him up pretty quick.
Okay, I agree with that. And it looks like a team that could win. But I mean, overall, I wouldn't be shocked to see somebody else come up and take the top spot there.
Yeah.
Looking at Clownhead Z. We had Marshall Gore win this year. And looking ahead to this upcoming season, Rit 6 got the second most points. This is the division I'm in. So anxious to see how these guys do against me. this year.
Well, I think this team is beatable. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely have a shot here. I mean, he's got Bo Nix as his starting QB, but he does have Brock Purdy and Justin Herbert behind him, but no other QBs even on his bench or anything. So he kind of needs all three of them to play at least this year, the whole year. He has Chase Brown, Travis Etienne, and Austin Eckler, and Zach Moss as his running backs. So I guess he only needs one of Chase Brown or Zach Moss to hit. And then he's got Keenan Allen, Jaden Reed, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore as his top receivers, which is honestly pretty nice. And then Dallas Goedert as his starting tight end. And
A lot of the same players, though. Meaning, if you have Moss and you have Chase Brown, or you have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, like all of a sudden you have all your eggs in the same basket, and you really don't want to start both of those guys, two running backs from the same team or two receivers from the same team.
Yeah,
in these kind of leagues, it
looks
really,
like he's just looking to see who stands out, because he does have Cortland Sutton on the bench. He's got Hollywood Brown on the bench. He's got Jatavian Sanders on the bench. I mean, he has some room to move if one of those two guys from those teams aren't as good as he thought they were going to be.
true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Looking at the top point getter in the Z division, Mario 19 is the team that got the most points.
I mean, just at face value, this team looks beatable as well. He's got Tua, Trevor, and Aaron Rodgers as QBs, and then a couple backups. He's got Joe Mixon and Devin Singletary as his running backs. So that might honestly be lower in the league for that room. He does have Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, Mike Evans as his receivers. So he's definitely set there. And then George Kittle as his tight end. It looks like he's got Gus Edwards on the bench, Juwan Johnson, Okongwu.
He's got Gerald Ford. It looks like
He's got Gerald
Ford. And P. Ryan. Yeah, so there's some running back room there, and Conklin.
Yeah, he could definitely make it work.
So there is something there. Well, that kind of wraps up the Big Eight, and excited to be into year 2. With this league and Captain Curl. I mean, I guess it looks like his team is destined again. So wouldn't shock me if we saw a 2-time winner just out of the gate here in this league. I mean, like that, it is hard to do, but his team looks pretty good, on paper as we look at what it is and kind of how he's built this thing, which is kind of incredible, right? The first 2 years of operation, having the same team be in the thick of things, and so and then being in a different time zone from Austria, so pretty cool, to see that all in operation. But next week will be exciting. I have a little bit of a surprise for this video next week, and just kind of doubling down on the survivor pool that we have, $50 entry, and through the Clownhead Nation. And we're also going to have the return of the $10 DraftKings. So jump in that DraftKings tournament. Really want to do that. But next week when we recap, it'll all be one video. The week that it was, week 1, will be in the books, and just to kind of get some last minute thoughts from you, Brad. As your team here is destined for the second spot. So do you feel like you're going to get a win here in the Big 8 in week 1? Did you look that over in your teams? And
yeah, I mean, I think my team is primed to make a little run here. I'm projected to lose in that league, but I think it could go either way, honestly.
Well, we'll see. By the time we talk next week, it'll week 1 will be in the books, and we'll have some 1-0 starts and some 0-1 starts, and it'll be fun to break it all down. And we'll definitely compare our records as well as we go through here compared to the league. So we'll be ready to talk about our teams and expose kind of our the crazy things that happen, and we'll break out the quarterback spreadsheet, which outlines all the starting quarterbacks, which is what this league is really built upon, is is the quarterback room and having a strong quarterback room. So for now, he's Brad. I'm the fantasy clown, and we'll see you next week.